Well, here I've got a brand new motherboard that just got released, and I figured I want to do a review on it and do a first look. So this is the Gigabyte Aorus, or Gigabyte Z790 Aorus Master X, and the X at the end represents the refresh for the 14th generation CPUs from Intel that just came out. So they did make just the Master without the X, but this is the X model. So we got a few extra features on this that are pretty nice, I might say. So this is going to go into my new build, but I wanted to get this in there and talk a little bit about this because there's a lot going on this board. So let's dive right into it. Oh, hey, well, while I got you here, just down there, just a little bit, right under the video, you'll see you can subscribe. Go ahead and click that. And then afterwards, hit that bell icon. That way you can get notified for any future videos that I do post. And if you wouldn't mind supporting me a little bit more, hit that thumbs up button. That way I can continue making these videos that you all enjoy. So, see you around. So generally speaking, I have stuck with Asus. And the reason being is because I've had no big issues and I keep going back. We are switching to Gigabyte for a couple different reasons. One of the main reasons is this board offers 5 M.2 slots. We're only going to be using 4 in a future video, but it offers 5 if you need that many. But this is going to replace my Maker build, and this is going to be, I'm hoping a lot better, you know, with the 14th generation processors coming out. Heck yeah! So, I wanted to show you what this board, what this all comes with. It's not nearly as good as Asus, I'm telling you. It's not nearly as good. The box quality, I think it's like recycled material. Now that's nice, but it's not good for longevity. Everything's flimsy and it feels like a styrofoam almost. So it's kind of funny. So obviously, that's where the motherboard was. This packing right here is nothing. Asus does a much better job at packing. Is it a big deal? I don't know. This box wasn't sealed, by the way. So I contacted the seller, and they apologized, but they said I could find it online. Now, here's the thing. What if this is your first build? And, I mean, yeah, if you had a cell phone, but what if you either don't have a cell phone or you don't have... or you're not hooked up to the internet with that phone, or you have, I don't know. But for whatever reason, why should you have to use your cell phone? Just send it with a manual. So I don't know what happened there, or if Gigabyte stopped sending manuals because you can download them all now. So anyway, this kind of gives you a couple of areas you can take a picture of, and it's got the QRL codes on them, so you can pop up the website like that. It comes with a sticker. It's kind of like it's a thin steel badge that says Aorus on it. You get a few different stickers, the go faster stickers. 2 braided cables. One is, they're both straight, and the other is a 90. Now these are actually these are actually nice braided cables though, so I got to give it to that. We get our Wi-Fi antenna. It is magnetic on this side. I'm not quite sure because it doesn't look like it adjusts like on Asus. Back here, I can actually like flap it all around, which is kind of nice. This one is just straight. It doesn't go anywhere. They call it the G connector. I thought they called it something else before, but it's the G connector. And basically what this is for the front hookup for your front I/O ports. And that way you can put all the wires on this and then hook it up to the port right down here. This little guy is a little microphone that you can hook up to the motherboard, and you can tune your fans according to noise. Kind of dumb, but whatever. Last but not least, they give you 2 thermo sensors, so you can plug these in. We got 2 spots right here where you can put them anywhere on your motherboard or in the back. Maybe if you have drives or something that are out back and you want to monitor the temperature of any particular area of the motherboard or your system. So that is all that comes with it. Gigabyte kind of did it nice when they put the new Q latches on that Asus kind of invented. Gigabyte kind of just followed that, which is fine. I don't care. I'd rather them follow them than never do it, because that's one of the new features of this board. And now it's what we're going to get into right now. I'm going to start talking about this. You can clearly see that I've left the nice pull tabs here with the protective plastic over some of the components here that are pretty reflective, and I can only imagine they're going to get even more reflective with that off. But I'm going to leave those on until I get done, or I should say get ready to do the build or do the build. So if we come up here to this extra large anodized black, I think that looks kind of cool. It's like a black coating on there for the VRMs. That looks pretty nice. And as we come around here, we have 4 DIMM slots, and they are capable of up to 192 gigabytes of RAM. So each one can hold 48 gigabyte sticks. Now, I've just bought 2 48 gigabyte sticks. I don't think I'm going to turn on XMP, but nevertheless, I only bought 2. Very expensive right now for the ones that I bought, because they're pretty new to in here. Now, as we work our way down, I said this thing has 5 M.2 slots. Now, if I back up just a second, we have a PCI by 16 slot here, a PCI 16 here, and 16 here. Now, the 16 is just the size, and it can hold a card that is capable of going in there. So physically, it can hold a 16, but not all of them are by 16 slots. The only one that's by 16 is up top. This one right here is a by 4, and this one is a by 1. So up top is where you're going to put your graphics card, and down below you can put some additional cards, whatever you think. Maybe the Wi-Fi one would go on the bottom if you really needed Wi-Fi, but this does come with Wi-Fi. I should mention that. If we turn right here, you can actually see the 2 parts sticking out right here that you thread on. That's the Wi-Fi connections. And this is, by the way, WiFi7. WiFi7. So if we come back around here, we have our M.2 slots. So you have 1 right under here, and you have 4 more under this big heat sink. So I do want to take this apart and show you, and I think I'll do that right now. So this top one is a Gen 5. And in order to take this off, they have these like quick latches here. You can they kind of just go to the side just like that. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And then it comes off, and that's it. That's where your Gen 5 NVMe would go if you want the extra speeds of anything 12,400 and above, up to 15,000, 16,000 megabytes a second. So now I'm going to tell you this. If you occupy this, it doesn't matter if it's a Gen 3, a Gen 4, or a Gen 5 drive, and you put that in here, it turns this PCI Express slot from a by 16 to now a by 8. So regardless of the drive you put up here, it forces this one down to a by 8. So just keep that in mind. Your graphics card is not going to run at its full potential if you put anything in here. Just want to let you know about that. So for the next part right here, you have another Q latch or quick latch or whatever the heck they're calling it. And that's the same thing. You just turn it sideways. Now I'm going to set the board down. I'm going to turn it sideways and lift up. And it's got 2 slots in it. That's how it's held in, just by these 2 guys right here. And we can see all the plastic you would have to remove prior to putting any drives in it. And the rest are 4.0. Except for this one. This one can accept SATA also. It's either this one or this one, but I'm pretty sure it's this one. You just have to look up on the motherboard manual. So this one supports 4.0, 4.0, 4.0, 4.0. And as far as I could read, if you occupy this, it doesn't disable any of these guys over here. So that's kind of nice. They only give you 4 slots over here for the SATA drives. But this one, I believe, can take SATA or NVMe. So that's kind of nice. So I'm going to be occupying all of these. This one, the top, let me start with this one again. This top one is CPU bound. So in other words, it's directly connected to the CPU. This one right here is also directly connected to the CPU. The next three are connected to the chipset, which is over in here. So this is where I'm going to put my primary drive, which is going to have my Windows on it. Then I'm going to have probably all my videos and files and everything that has to do with editing probably on here. And then I'm going to have two backup drives. I'm going to have a 2 terabyte, a 2 terabyte, a 4 terabyte, and another 4 terabyte. These are going to act as backups on my computer. And that's how I'm going to set that up. 99% chance that's how I'm going to set it up. So moving forward, we have two CPU connectors. Normally what you would want to do is hook up both of these if you're going to overclock the system. Generally speaking, you can get away with just one of them up there if you're not overclocking. But I feel sometimes I would put both of them on if you're a heavy user but not overclocking. At least it's just going to help out the CPU. Also, these are shielded, by the way. So it's just another reinforcement. That's kind of nice. As we come under here, it's kind of hard to see, but you have a fan connector. There's a fan connector there and another one right there. That's pretty nice. You got a rear fan over here, you can just run the wire right to here. And if you had a fan up top, somewhere up here, you could maybe come right down to there. So that's kind of well thought out. I kind of like that. And we come around to here, we have another fan connector, another fan connector, and another fan connector. Some of these will say, this one says fan pump. So, if you got a pump on here, that's where you're going to put that connector. Let's see. Then you got system fan and optional. So if you were running just a heat sink on here with one or two fans, if you had one fan on it, you would hook it up to this gray one. If you had a second fan on the other side helping it or assisting it with air move, you have the optional one, which you would put it on there. Moving around, we have our 5-volt addressable RGB connector right up top here. Let me see if I can just turn it for you. Right up there. We have our display readout for any codes. We have a power button, which is pretty nice. So if you're doing overclocking or you have the system open where you are constantly turning it on or off, you can use that. Let's see, we have our 24-pin power connector for the motherboard. That's pretty standard. We have our front USB Type-C port. Now this is a 3.2, it's Gen 3.2 2x2. So that is very, very impressive. I really like that. We have two 3.0 or 3.2 Gen 1. Yeah, Gen 1 or yeah, I think that's Gen 1. So it gets confusing with USB connectors. Now here we have our quick release. So when you put a graphics card in here and then this part latches, it's very hard to get to this with graphic cards getting bigger and you have bigger heat sinks on here and all kinds of stuff. So now they started putting these on here. So if you watch right here, you push this button, it releases the graphics card now. So that's pretty nice. And as we move down, we have our 4 SATA connectors. Like I said, we have 2 more fan headers. Now these 2 here are for Thunderbolt connections. So if you bought a Gigabyte Thunderbolt add-in card, let me see if I can get a little bit better view angle of that. Right here. That's where you would connect that. We have our front I/O connector. And then I gotta slip it on this board here because I have to hold this. So this is kind of hard to read. I can't remember where everything's laid out. This one right here is a TPM connector. If you had a trusted module platform or a trusted platform module or something like that, you can connect it there. There is a clear CMOS right here. By the way, that's your CMOS battery. Then right down here is a reset. So if you jump these, This reset is actually the same as this button right here. This is the same thing. That's a button. And this button, you can actually program. You can actually program it to do multiple things, like turn on or off LEDs, access the BIOS, and actually do a hard reset. So that's actually pretty cool. So if your regular reset button isn't working, you can actually use that button to actually force everything off or force a reset. And the same goes for this guy right here, these two. If you hook that directly up to your reset button, that'll do the same thing as that button. So that's kind of cool. You have two more fan headers. You have a temperature sensor. Oh, by the way, there was actually a temp sensor right up here, right there. So those temperature sensors that I showed you earlier in the box, that's where those get hooked up. We have our two 2.0 USB connectors for various things, mainly for RGB and pumps and other things like that nowadays. Another fan header. We have, I forget what this is. It's the, oh, so this is the sensor. Yeah, so if you took this out, there's a little jumper in there. If you took that out and plugged in that red wire that will read your, that had the speaker on it, it'll read the fan noise. Then we have another addressable, nope, sorry, that is a 12 volt. Yes, that's a 12 volt RGB header. Then you have two more addressable RGBs. Then you have an LED hookup right there. And then you have your audio front panel. So that's pretty cool. Let's get around here talking about what we have for rear connections and input-output. So we have our, up top here, we have our Q flash. So you can actually flash the BIOS without a CPU. You just need power going to the motherboard. That's all you need. And you can put the, sometimes they have a dedicated BIOS right here. So you put your thumb drive in there, you hit that button, and away it goes. It'll update the BIOS for you. So you have a CMOS reset button right here. There's your Wi-Fi antenna hookup. And again, that's Wi-Fi 7, and you can see the little 7 right there, so that's new. Now, unless you have, let me just pan up here. Oh, that's big. So unless you have Wi-Fi 7 router, it's only going to operate as fast as your Wi-Fi, your current Wi-Fi is. So you have to update your Wi-Fi router in order to take advantage of that. We have 4 USB 3.0. We have a display port right here. So if you have integrated graphics, which is great for diagnosing if you have problems with an express slot, or if you have problems with a graphics card, you can at least see that it's outputting something. We have USB 3.2, 4 of them, 6 of them. And then we have our Type C. That's at 20 gigabytes, or 20 gigabits. Wait, yeah, 20 gigs each. That one's 20, that one's 20, and this one is only 5. So you have a 20, and a 5 gigabits per second for USB Type C. We have a mic in. It's a mic combo, so that's for everything. But you have your mic there, line out, and your optical if you are using that. I don't know many people that use that. Oh, but by the way, look at the back of that. That's pretty nice. This actually represents pretty close to what the back of my She-Hulk motherboard actually looks like. It's got this nice plating on the back, and there might be a few scuffs because it was on the wood here, and now I'm upset. Oh my gosh. So, yeah, look at that. There you go. So I don't know if you've noticed, but if you counted all the fan headers that are possible, you could actually hook up 10 fans just using the motherboard supported headers on here. That's pretty impressive. That's not to mention that most fans you can at least split once. And so, well, in other words, most headers you can split once. So you hook it into the board and you have a splitter that comes out. Now you can operate 2 fans off of 1 header. Now the only thing you have to be careful with that is if you have fans in different locations, you can't change the speed because it's going to change the speed of both equally. So you just got to keep that in mind. But that's pretty cool. I mean, 10 headers, I'm not going to use it, but I think I'm going to have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fans, maybe 7 when I build this. So at least 6, maybe 7. But they normally get hooked up in the back to the controller. I don't even use any of the headers off of here, so I don't even think I'm going to be using the headers. But we'll find out when we go to build it. So stay tuned for that. That's probably coming up maybe in 2-3 weeks. I have to wait at least till the 17th to get the 14th gen, and I'm planning on buying the 14900K. Although pretty impressive with the 14700K, they are getting pretty good results out of that, and for a much better price. So why am I going to Gigabyte versus just sticking with Asus that I'm used to? Well, one big reason is to do something different and not be too biased. So get a different experience and show you guys that they're all still good motherboards, I hope. And you always hope that you do not get a lemon or something wrong going on here. But another reason is the price point. Asus, I'm comparing this one to the Asus Z790 Dark Hero. And that one was just released the other day. And the price point is a little bit higher, about $50 to $75 as of kind of making this video right now. One of the other ones is this one comes with 2 3.0 headers on the board. Now there's a couple different scenarios where these can come in useful. Is one, when you have the second one. Pretty much every motherboard comes with 3.0 header on it, but when you have 2, if you have a case that has 4 USB 3.0 ports on the front of the case, that's one reason. The second reason is if you only have 2, but you have a lot of RGB and you've already utilized your 2.0 ports on the bottom here, you can go ahead and get yourself an adapter for right here that will turn this into a 2.0. And now you can use that for RGB or, you know, some other modules that you're trying to power up. So one other reason, and this is kind of just cosmetic, mechanical reason, is you remember when I showed you this quick latch, or they're actually considering it the EZ, it's just the letter E and then Z, is when you take this off, which I'm going to have to set this down, but when you take it off and then you put it back down, as far as I know, Gigabyte is the only one that allows you to just push down on it. And this is also made out of steel. So the Easy Latch or Easy Connect, whatever they call it, is metal. And I believe Asus internally is all kind of like that hard plastic or composite material. So I just found that as a nice touch. It works the same up here for this heatsink and this heatsink. So as far as the I/O ports here, they're pretty much compatible. You know, in other words, from Asus to Gigabyte, they're kind of the same. I believe this one offers this has 20 gigabit, but the other one doesn't. I can't remember. But anyway, they're pretty comparable. I'm not too worried about that as much as I was how everything laid out here, and I really like that option for the future. Now, one thing I will point out that Asus has over Gigabyte, now maybe Gigabyte's highest model, there's one model, I believe, 1 or 2 models up from this, but alongside of this 24-pin power, you also get an additional power if you are running like dual graphics or all of your NVMe's are occupied. So it provides extra power to the motherboard where you might need it, which is kind of nice, especially if you're, I think if you're charging, like if you have USB ports and you have this USB Type-C, this is the Gen 3.2 2x2, and sometimes if it's PD, so if it provides power for like 60 watt for charging and all that. Sometimes that extra port for, like on Asus that they give you, comes in handy. But that's it. That's about all that I had for why I'm kind of switching. Now I'm going to tell you something that I don't like. So if I'm not going to occupy this in here, and I go and I put this back in here because there's going to be nothing in there. Now I can do the same with that. Now it's not going to move around, but it'd be kind of cool if there was a way of securing this a lot better, like with a screw or something, to where it just kind of wiggles. That's all it's going to do. I mean, luckily the PC sits and it doesn't move, so we're pretty clear and good for that. I don't think there's much else I can talk about on this particular motherboard. I think I've kind of went over all the bits and pieces and the good cookie chunks of it. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. I think I talked about everything. If there is anything I missed, I'm sorry. I will try to edit it in if I remember anything within the next moment or two. But from here, I think I'm going to wrap it up. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for me. Until next time, take care.